the images of two different perfect masters around his neck. Out of devotion to the second of these, he entered an ashram in Berkeley, where he nearly died of undiagnosed hepatitis. By the time Pete finished paying the medical bills, Donald had become a Christian. He drifted from church to church, then joined a Pentecostal community that met somewhere in the Mission District to sing in tongues and swap prophecies. Pete couldn't make sense of it. The parents were both dead, but while they were alive, neither of them had found it necessary to believe that gods and devils were personally interested in securing their company for all eternity. They managed to be decent people without making fools of themselves, and Pete had the same ambition. He thought the whole thing was an excuse for Donald to take himself seriously. The trouble was that Donald couldn't content himself with worrying about his own soul. He had to worry about everyone else's, and especially Pete's. He handed down his judgments in ways he thought subtle, through significant silence, innuendo, looks of mild despair that said, "Brother, what have you come to?" What Pete had come to, as far as he could tell, was prosperity. That was the real issue between them. Pete prospered, and Donald did not prosper. At the age of 40, Pete took up skydiving. He made his first jump with two friends who'd started only a few months earlier and were already doing stunts. Pete would never use the word mystical, but that was how he felt about the experience. Later, he made the mistake of describing it to Donald, who kept asking how much it cost, and then acted appalled when Pete told him. "At least I'm trying something new," Pete said. "At least I'm breaking the pattern." Not long after that conversation, Donald also broke the pattern by moving to a farm outside Paso Robles. The farm was owned by several members of Donald's community, who'd bought it with the idea of forming a family of faith. That was how Donald explained it in the first letter he sent. Every week, Pete heard how happy Donald was, how in the Lord. He told Pete they were all praying for him, he and the rest of Pete's brothers and sisters on the farm. "I only have one brother," Pete wanted to answer, "and that's enough." But he kept this thought to himself. In November, the letters stopped. Pete didn't worry about this at first, but when he called at Thanksgiving, Donald was grim. He tried to sound upbeat, but didn't try hard enough to make it convincing. "Now, listen," Pete said. "You don't have to stay in that place if you don't want to." "I'll be all right," Donald answered. "That's not the point. Being all right is not the point. If you don't like what's going on up there, then get out." "I'm all right," Donald said again, more firmly. "I'm doing fine." But he called Pete a week later and said that he was quitting the farm. When Pete asked him where he intended to go, Donald admitted that he had no plan. His car had been repossessed just before he left the city, and he was flat broke. "I guess you'll have to stay with us," Pete said. Donald put up a show of resistance, then he gave in. "Just until I get my feet on the ground." "Right," Pete said. "Check out your options." He told Donald he'd send him money for a bus ticket, but as they were about to hang up, Pete changed his mind. He knew that Donald would try hitchhiking to save the fare, and he didn't want him out on the road all alone where some creep could pick him up, where anything could happen. "Better yet," he said, "I'll come and get you." "You don't have to do that. I didn't expect you to do that," Donald said. "It's a pretty long drive. Just tell me how to get there." But Donald wouldn't give him directions. He said the farm was too depressing, that Pete wouldn't like it. Instead, he insisted on meeting him at a service station called Jonathan's Mechanical Emporium. "You must be kidding," Pete said. "It's close to the highway," Donald told him. "I didn't name it." "That's one for the collection," Pete said. The day before he left to bring Donald home, Pete received a letter from a man who described himself as head of household at the farm where Donald had been living. He told Pete that Donald had not quit the farm, but had been asked to leave. The letter was written on the back of a mimeographed survey form asking people to record their response to a ceremony of some kind. The last question read, "What did you feel during the liturgy? A. Being. B. Becoming. C. Being and becoming. D. None of the above. E. All of the above." Pete